In today's episode, Stephanie asks, the pandemic has led to the cancellation of many conferences. If in-person events are a cornerstone touchpoint for a brand, how should marketers pivot? What can they do now to drive pipeline activity? So that's a good question. The answer depends on how you got pipeline from shows. So, for example, if you are a silver or gold or platinum or whatever sponsor of a conference, you may get a portion or all of the attendee registration list, right? So your pipeline essentially came from the conference gathering up names and emails for you and handing them over in exchange for a big pile of money. If you got leads from the stage, you had one or more speakers either paid to have them be up on stage or they were just good enough speakers that they merited on their own, then that's a different mechanism where there's some call to action from an educational benefit to your users, to your audience. If it was private parties and dinners, the ability to take 10 prospects out to an expensive steak dinner somewhere, that's a different level of engagement. Once you understand the mechanism by which a conference fed you pipeline, you can find analogs for the world as it is now inside of a pandemic. So let's think about this. If your thing was the steak dinner, right? What are some things that you can do to replicate a part of that experience? The whole point of a steak dinner kind of environment is it gives you and a handful of prospects the ability to have a discussion for a long time. There may or may not be a guest speaker of some kind. It may be like a panel discussion or something, but it's a more intimate event, right? It's usually not going to be more than like 20 people in a room, and even at one table, it's going to be 8 to 10 people at a table. What happens if you start doing things like Zoom calls, but with some kind of tangible added benefit? I've seen a number of brands do this very successfully, where they will send out bottles of wine to a select group of people and say, be online at this time, and we'll have a wine tasting together, or send out a sampler. Probably will actually cost you less than the steak dinner, because steak dinners, so you'll run easily $100 a person. Get 2 or 3 bottles of wine and get them all shipped out, and you can meet the same essentially cost, and you can replicate a lot of the discussion part of the experience. You have your subject matter expert, maybe a guest speaker of some kind, and through the tasting, you kind of hang out for the hour or whatever. If you are getting leads from the stage itself, again, that one's a fairly obvious one to replicate. You do webinars, and instead of just large-scale webinars, maybe you have a very focused webinar. Maybe you do some innovative advertising to drive attention to it. But the webinar one is pretty straightforward. There's almost a one-to-one replacement from speaking from the stage in a webinar. If you are having trouble attracting people to your webinars because your brand is not well known, or you have not had the greatest track record of webinars, you, again, may want to bring in a guest speaker, a panelist, somebody that can bring some of their own audience and eyeballs with them to the event. Expect to pay for that. And depending on the size of the audience, expect to pay more for that the larger the audience gets. But it's a way to access the same crowd that you would access if it was at an event, because when you're at an event, particularly for the larger speakers or speakers who are known for a topic, people are in that room to see that person talk and to hear what they have to say. So when you see somebody like Ann Handley on stage, you are there to listen to Ann talk about writing. Right? If you see somebody like Crystal Washington on stage, you are there to learn about tech futurism. And so if you engage those speakers in your webinar, there's a good chance they will bring some of their audience with them. And that's what you want. You want net new audience. You don't want it to be just the audience you currently have. Although there's nothing wrong with nurturing them. If you're trying to build a new pipeline, you need to bring in some of the audience. When it comes to just big lists, that is a little bit tougher, but not not insurmountable. Essentially, at that point, you start looking at co-registration. So co-registration on white papers, on ebooks, on webinars or other events, newsletters, whatever the case may be. Sponsoring a newsletter would be a great way to do that, because, again, you're going to be trying to get a large number of registrations that you can then put into your marketing automation system. So if you, as an example, I did a paper with TalkWalker. My company, Trust Insights, and TalkWalker collaborated. We worked out an arrangement, and we had a custom-built piece of research that we did and published, and it generated about 1,200 leads for them. And so that was for a reasonable investment, a good way to draw a lot of new pipeline for them to work with. Now, is it all qualified? No, but neither is everybody who attends a conference. Whatever the mechanism is that the conference delivers for you, you can find digital versions of that now. It's just you have to get away from the idea of thinking that it's going to function exactly like a conference. You have to look at the techniques that are available and say which techniques map to the benefit we used to get from the event. Are there other things that you are missing? Yes, there's always that absence of serendipity, right? No matter how good a virtual event is, it cannot seem to replicate that, randomly bumping into somebody in the hallway, or hanging out at somebody's booth and meeting a new friend. That's very difficult to do digitally. I've not seen anything that comes close to that other than curated communities. So, for example, if they join a Slack instance about a specific topic, you can meet new people there in a conversation. But running out and building a community like that is not something you can just stand up for an event and then let it go. I mean, you can do it, but it's kind of tacky. You have to invest the time in that community to make it work. We've been running the Analytics for Marketers community. If you go to trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers, we've been running that for well over a year, and only recently passed about 1,000 new people in there. It's one of those things that it takes time to build and grow and nurture a community, and you have to put a lot more into it up front than you're going to get out of it, a lot more. But that can replicate that serendipity experience if you're trying to attract people who might not otherwise want your newsletter or attend your webinar or hang out on a Zoom call with you. And they can get to know you in a way that is not less threatening, but I guess less. They will perceive it as less likely for you to try and sell them something immediately, and they know they can punch out if things are there's no benefit for them. So think about the benefits you got, map them to digital analogs. That's a terrible catchphrase. Match them to their digital equivalents now, and you can replicate most of the benefits of a conference. But remember that unlike a real conference, you're breaking them into different pieces, so you'll get less of a synergistic effect than you would in a real world event. But you can still do it. You can still meet your deadlines. You can still meet your goals for events for the year. Just think differently about what those tactics look like to achieve the same strategic goal. If you have follow-up questions, leave them in the comments box below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.